Welcome back to another video. Today's a bit of an interesting day. We have a humidex warning high of 43 degrees, which is pretty warm, over 100 for those of you in the land of the Fahrenheits, which I recently learned some fun facts about, but I'm not going to bore you with them because today I want to talk to you about depreciation of vehicles. Welcome back to the Between Two Fenders podcast, Top Hat Plus. Let's get into it. There's been a lot of misconceptions lately about buying vehicles and pricing and depreciation and everything that's been going on, and I find it a little crazy and a little predatory on the dealership's behalf. It seems to be just sweeping across the industry, and people are kind of setting themselves up for failure long term, and it's going to be a little bit disappointing to have to hear everybody griping about how much money they're losing on vehicles because they bought it during the pandemic. But that's just the way it's going to go, and there's nothing we can do about it. At some point, the pandemic will end. At some point, everybody will be back at work. The chip shortage will end, in theory, and production will resume to some of a normal capacity, and dealerships will start to have vehicles again. So during the pandemic, they still sold millions of vehicles across all of the brands and all of the genres and categories of vehicles, but people were paying at or above sticker, which we're not really used to. We're kind of born and raised and taught that you go in, you haggle. You want the absolute best, the best price you can get. I'm no different. I want a good deal. And I don't want to pay anything more than I have to because you know that vehicle is going to take a huge hit anyways. So pay less, lose less, and happier. So if you're going to go in and buy a $50,000 car, you pay $50,000 for it. In 4 years, it's going to be worth 25, maybe 20 grand, depending on the vehicle. There are exceptions, there are oddities, there are trims that are somewhat excluded from this, but they are rare, far and few between, and you don't really know what they are until further down the road. So people are going in and looking at this $50,000 car. It's during a pandemic, they want a new car or they need a new car, and that dealership's now asking $60,000. The problem is, and I think people are forgetting, is once everything kind of goes back to normal, those cars are going to be selling for $45,000. So if they're selling for $45,000 and depreciating like a normal rate would depreciate, then that car that they spent $60,000 on is going to depreciate to the same value because it's not going to have more value being a pandemic car than it did before or after. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the market goes because I feel like people are going to be asking more money for their used stuff, and it's just not going to be there, which is only going to hurt it even more and make people offer even less, and people are going to lose that much more. And I feel like depreciation rates are just going to absolutely swirl out of control. It also seems like new sales, I don't know if they're going to quite recover to the same capacity or have quite the same aggressive nature they had before because people have gotten such a dirty taste in their mouth with all the markups. I seen Broncos, base model Broncos, and I'm a Bronco fan, not a Ford fan, but I think the Bronco's probably one of the best offerings as far as a unique vehicle on the market right now. Get it in a manual, get it with some big tires, looks cool, doors can come off, it does the Jeep kind of thing, but it's nicer, it's a little more SUV-like. Super cool vehicle, I think it's very cool. But to see a $20,000 markup, and they're asking, I mean, at least in Canadian loonies, they're doing, I've seen $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 for some of these fairly unexciting trim levels of SUV, and they're going to get absolutely demolished. Like, the depreciation on them has to happen, and it might be a little bit delayed because of the chip shortage, but when it hits, those poor owners are going to just absolutely lose their shirt. Again, this is just my opinion and based on my entire life and seeing how everything's gone and the influxes and decreases. Interest rates are rising massively and are expected to go up. A lot of cost of living inflation that we are currently experiencing. An example, like a bale of hay was $7, now they're $30. That cost is going to be seen next year, which means people's budgets are going to be even tighter next year, which means used market's going to get tighter, new market's going to get tighter, and everything's going to be more competitive for cheap pricing. So everybody that overpaid is just going to have to go full circle and just swallow their pride because they either didn't or couldn't wait, and now they're here, taking the loss. This is just a conversation I would like to open up to everybody. It's obviously going to be very interesting to see how things transpire, and I will be updating and making more videos on this as I see some very specific examples I'm looking for, and as soon as they come up, I will share them, of course. So, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Till next time, Top Hat Plus, Between Two Fenders.